Oh, hey, hi. Well, it has been a very long hot minute since I have done a solo show. And there is only really one reason I'm doing a solo show, and that is because I was supposed to be doing an interview right now, and they didn't show. I don't know. They probably got their days mixed out. I've already emailed, but it's all figured out. It's all good. No worries. However, I have this little chunk of time that was supposed to be designated for doing a podcast. So I thought, why not? Why not do a solo one? Dust off some of the no, what do I want to say? Shake off some of the dust. Shake off some of the dust of doing solo interviews. I have to admit, I'm very spoiled having Clay to do these with, or doing interviews, because it's just having another person to bounce ideas off of and just simply have a conversation with. I kind of don't miss doing these by myself, but I am excited to chat with you about this topic I've decided on for today. I just get my chin on the microphone. So I think we're going to get right into it right after this. Here we go.
Conversation tells a story, and the best ones begin with honesty, courage, and a little curiosity. That's where Elsa Kurt comes in. She's an author, podcaster, and independent media personality, and this is where she brings real life to the table. Authors, thinkers, creators, leaders, everyday folks with extraordinary journeys. We sit down, we dig in, and we talk about what matters, what's messy, what's beautiful, and what just might inspire you to look at the world a little differently. So pour a cup of something good, settle back and join me. This is Elsa Kurt Interviews, where truth has a seat and everyone's welcome.
I'm going to talk about something that maybe for some people is going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but I think it's actually necessary to have this conversation, and not because I think it's fun and I'm not poking at people, and it's not because I think everyone on one side of the political aisle is the same. However, I want to talk about this because patterns actually matter. And when you see the same behaviors and the same language and the same emotional responses over and over and over again, it stops being about individuals and it starts being about culture and psychology and social conditioning. And that is the overarching topic here. And we'll get into specifics, of course, but let me just kind of fill you in on a little background here. So for me, this really heightened with the most recent case in Minnesota, Renee Good, who, listen, it's a tragic situation all around. A woman, a mother is dead, and people are understandably upset. And I can say that with also saying that this was all as a result of her own actions. If you haven't seen it, this is just a little piece of it here.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you. Show your face. I'm not mad at you. That's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking country. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car. Oh! Fucking bitch.
So pretty much immediately after the incident, I mean, essentially during the incident, the response from a very specific group of people followed a script that we have seen time and time again, right? And who were the people? Liberal, white women.
Come on my page and say that people should be in this country legally. Don't do it.
What about Minnesota daycare, you stupid motherfucker? And you are racist.
Losing our democracy! Wake up!
Part of it is being like a white woman, that I'm privileged and I have a lot of privilege.
Ah, come on,
stepping forward and, not with reasonable questions, and certainly not with restraint, and definitely no sense of anything intelligent, certainly not having any complete information. But they come in with their rants and their tirades and their moral declarations and their, fist waving and performative guilt and outrage, and, their identity awareness that somehow always manages to center themselves right in the middle of someone else's death. Like they literally make everything about themselves. This is why I stay away from social media during the day unless I'm working on it. But just watching these clips and I'm thinking to myself, my God, this is so tone deaf. It's not even just bad timing. Like it is something way, way deeper. It is psychological and sociological. It's a pattern of these things that keep on repeating itself. And if we're going to be honest about it, it has become one of the most destabilizing forces within public discourse. Like liberal white women, who knew, right? Who knew? But that's what this episode is going to be all about. And it's not a rant. At least I'm going to try not to rant. It's not a hit piece. It might feel like one to some people, but it's an honest clinical look at why liberal white women as a group have moved so far into emotional extremism that their behavior just now reads as pure irrational and self-absorbed and frankly completely unmoored from reality. And before anybody starts, let me just tell you, I'm not talking about all liberal women. I'm not talking about all white women. I'm talking about a very, very specific ideological and cultural subgroup that are typically shaped by academia and media and modern activism. I mean, let's just start right off the bat with psychology, right? Human beings need meaning. And that's obviously, it's not a political statement. It's biological, and it's also definitely, maybe even especially spiritual. We need to feel that our lives matter, that we're on the right side of something. And that's universal. It truly is. We need to feel that we're contributing to a story that is larger than ourselves. We need purpose. Like we're designed with and for purpose. Now, traditionally, people found that meaning and that purpose through faith and family and community and responsibility, right? But when those structures weaken, which they obviously have, people don't stop needing to have meaning. They just look for it somewhere else, right? Now, for a lot of liberal white women, activism has become that substitute because we know they don't want to have kids and they don't want to have families. And the thing is, they're not using activism as like volunteering, or, just working locally. They're using activism as their identity, like as their moral currency, like as their self-definition. Like, I don't do activism. I am an activist. That is who I am. And when your sense of self becomes tied to being good, and goodness is defined by ideology rather than behavior, you become hypersensitive to perceived threats. Like any challenge feels like an attack. And listen, you've seen the videos, you've seen all of the things that they say and do. You know this is true. But in their minds, like any disagreement feels like harm. Facts become secondary to feelings because feelings are now evidence of virtue. I feel a certain way, and I am virtuous. I am good, right? That is why you see such extreme emotional reactions, the crying into microphones, the screaming into what's called megaphones, shouting all these slogans that don't actually explain anything or better anything or offer any solutions to anything. They just speak in these like rehearsed phrases that sound like they came straight out of a hippie college seminar or, a non-profit training. Like it's all the same talking points over and over and over again. And it's not accidental. Like this behavior is taught. I mean, it's learned by them, by people teaching this to them, to how to behave like this. Modern progressive spaces, like they reward emotional expression over analytical thinking. Not every, all of these liberal college campuses, that is the way it is over there. Like the more you shake your fist and do all of these things, the more moral superiority you have. And the more you center your feelings, like you put them dead center of everything as the most important thing, the less you're expected to defend your claims, because it comes from like this deeply emotional place, which who wants to even deal with that, right? But all of this just produces adults who never learn emotional regulation and conflict. Like they cannot have logical, clear discourse with anyone. And now you add in this other, like, to me, totally unexpected layer, like, what the heck? But that layer that gets added in is now guilt. White guilt has been institutionalized, like, not just acknowledged, not discussed thoughtfully, institutionalized, like, taught, reinforced, worse, praised. Like, the more white guilt you have, the better person you must be, right? Like, if I am kneeling down and kissing the feet of a person of color, I have the most moral currency, right? The truth is a lot of liberal white women have been told explicitly or implicitly that their very existence is suspect, that their comfort is stolen, essentially, like not earned, not anything to do with anything, but it's stolen. If they have any kind of neutrality, well, that's as good as violence. That's just violence against others, because silence is complicity. If you're not advocating, you must be complicit. You must be one of them, So these women, these white liberal women with this white liberal guilt, have to keep proving that they're one of the good ones. They're the ones that say things like, I have Black friends. Like, here's a little sympathy, though, for these people, because when you think about it, like psychologically, that feeling has to create so much anxiety in these people. And what do anxious people often do? They overperform. They over-signal. They overspeak. They over-emote. They rush to condemn. They rush to align themselves to be allies with whoever the perceived need to be allied with of the day is. They got to make sure they say the right thing before anybody can accuse them of being on the wrong side. I'm exhausted for them. I am pained and anxious for them. To live like that is horrible, right? And this is how you end up with women at a vigil for a dead mother talking about their own privilege instead of actual human loss in front of them. That's a real story. That's a real story that actually happened. There was like some vigil and some, emotional little white woman used the opportunity to talk about that instead of the deceased woman. Dude, that's not compassion. It's like self-preservation, and it's masquerading as empathy. It is nothing more than that. There is no actual depth to any of that. It's performative. And this is where sociology comes in. Now, this demographic are liberal white women. They are overwhelmingly college educated, urban or suburban. They are immersed in social media, and they are completely surrounded by ideological echo chambers. And they always tend to consume media that frames the world in binaries, like oppressor and oppressed, victim and villain, good people and bad people. No gray areas. You're either one or the other, and you can't be both. You can't have any type of overlap of anything. It's just very black and white. And, nuance just doesn't survive in that kind of environment. Like, anything complex, any kind of complexity just feels, there's the word, feels threatening because it destabilizes their moral hierarchy. So when something like the Minnesota shooting happens, the response from them is never, well, what do we know? What don't we know? What actually happened? Maybe I'll wait to see different perspectives. Maybe I will reserve judgment to the whole story is out. The response is for them, what does this symbolize? And symbolism always wins over substance. It's always going to win with that type of mentality because they need their symbolism, they need their cause, they need their, their passion project. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter what it is. It's just whatever it is at the moment. But in this particular case, and many like it, this is how law enforcement becomes a cartoon villain before evidence is ever even reviewed. And we're living in the social media age, right, where everybody has their cell phone out and they're recording everything, so in as bad as all that is, that's probably one of the good things, because there were so many angles from that and they were put out so immediately almost that you were able to see that the ICE agent actually did get struck by the vehicle. And he was moving out of the way and she hit him, whatever. You can, everybody's analyzing all of that over and over again, frame by frame, all of those things, but it doesn't change the fact that, she defied direct orders by law enforcement. And then she stepped on that gas pedal. And what happened next was a result of all of her actions up until that moment. So, sad for any loss of life, always. It is a tragedy. It absolutely is. But the ICE agent did what needed to be done. The job of an officer of the law is, if there is a threat, their job is to stop the threat. And that's what he did. But anyhow, back to our liberal white females. This is exactly how a tragedy becomes a prop to them. And, here's another part that people just do not like to hear. This is not about kindness. This is about power. Moral power is what this is about. They don't really care about Renee Good. They don't really care about this woman as an individual. They care because she is a prop for them, for their cause, for their fight. In progressive culture, women are often granted automatic moral authority. It's just a thing. I'm sorry. Women are framed as more empathetic, right? More nurturing, more emotionally intelligent, typically. It's questionable, but sure, yes. Let's be real, those assumptions obviously aren't always earned. They are just like the cultural defaults that we all automatically lean on, right? And when you combine that default moral authority with ideological certainty, you tend to get something very, very volatile. Case in point, right? You get people who believe their feelings are not just valid, but superior. So superior. You get people who think disagreement is cruelty. You get people who believe that intention matters more than outcome, unless the outcome contradicts the narrative. Always a way to turn that about. We know that historically women were taught to be caretakers of moral order. That role has not disappeared. Like it didn't disappear. It got politicized. Instead of tending households and communities, there is a large segment of women who now see themselves as caretakers of society's conscience, right? I mean, think about it. If you believe that you are the conscience, you don't question yourself. You correct everybody else around you, right? And that's basically why any type of dissent from this, perspective is treated as immorality. I mean, that is why they won't debate conservatives. Like next to never do they debate conservatives, because then they would have to have actual talking points and not sound bites, right? But anyhow, that's why every issue becomes like some existential crisis for them. And the mistake I think people tend to make looking at these liberal white women is the default, right? They're so stupid. Oh, they're so stupid. It's really quite the opposite. Most of them really are actually very intelligent, very articulate, and they are deeply sincere. It's not always these septum ring, blue-haired, ridiculous, women children who, just say the most absurd things. They make great sound bites, speaking of sound bites, but really the majority of them are very, very smart. And they are, if you've ever had a real conversation with one, they're deeply sincere. They are truly very sincere in what they believe and how they feel and all of that. And that is technically what makes them so dangerous. Why is it dangerous? Because sincerity without grounding is it's just dangerous, guys. I mean, we see it constantly. How many examples can I possibly give you here? Intelligence without wisdom, very different, is dangerous. When you have empathy without truth, it becomes manipulation. And even when it's unintended, that is what happens. There is a very, very visible lack of emotional resilience in these women. There's a fragility that shows up in their public meltdowns and their online pileups and their moral hysteria. When a worldview teaches you that words are violence and discomfort is harm, you raise adults who cannot tolerate conflict. And people who cannot tolerate conflict will always escalate it. And I know that sounds contradictory, but proof over and over again, proof in every other video. These women, these people, they don't self-soothe. They externalize everything. Every problem they have must become everyone else's problem. These are people who do not reflect. They simply react. They don't ask, could I be wrong? They ask, why are you hurting me? Why are you doing this to me? Except they scream it in your face and with their megaphone or cat bucket in your comment sections. Can I just state the obvious and say that that is not strength, that is arrested development in the most extreme way. And it's just so sad. And I know I'm kind of chuckling here and laughing, but I mean it. It's just so sad. And I want to say this next part very carefully because it matters. This doesn't make someone evil. It makes them unformed, basically. Uninformed, but also unformed. Like they're just not complete whole humans. Like a culture that tells women that they are victims first and individuals second. It robs them of agency. Like it encourages perpetual grievances, and grievance, when rewarded, becomes identity. This is what we're dealing with when we're looking at these people. So what looks like insanity from the outside is a lot of times a combination of anxiety, moral insecurity, social reinforcement, and profound lack of grounding in objective truth. Now, if you contrast that with a worldview that is rooted in faith and responsibility and order, where emotions are real but not sovereign, where truth exists outside of the self, and none of this my truth kind of thing. What else? Where tragedy is met with humility rather than conclusions. That is the difference between us and them. Like there's a lot of differences, but that is a very, very significant multi-part difference between us and them. The Minnesota incident didn't expose, I don't know, whatever they think it was trying to expose racism. I don't even know anymore. But it exposed how disconnected modern activism has become from human reality. It shows just how quickly performance replaces compassion. And oh boy, it shows us how easily grief can be weaponized against everyone, basically. How readily facts are sacrificed for their feelings. I mean, let's talk about that, right? Who cares about facts, right? I feel like this or that. That's way more important. And honestly, unless we're willing to talk about the psychological factors that are shaping this behavior, it's going to keep happening, just more and more louder, more extreme, and more, with more tragedy on the horizon, because they have just completely lost all sense of stability And I'll tell you what, I'm not trying to win any arguments with anyone. Yeah, I'm not going to be going back and forth with anybody in the comment sections. You are free to put your opinions or your disagreements in there. This is my perspective. I've been reading on this and studying this and just observing it for a long time now. And I feel really, really solid in my take on this. So, agree, disagree, it's all good by me. I'm certainly not going to be screaming into a megaphone in your face or calling you names for disagreeing with me. Like I said, I'm not trying to win any arguments here. For me, this is about trying to understand why so many people who claim to have empathy have so dramatically lost the ability to see others clearly. And maybe the takeaway I'm here, or the most uncomfortable truth of all of this is that a culture that tells women they are always right because they feel deeply is not empowering them. Someone please change that record in these academic institutions that's telling them that, because what it's actually doing is infantilizing them. They are just giant children. Guys, real strength. And let me talk directly to these women because maybe one will watch. Here's the thing. Real strength requires restraint. Real compassion requires humility. Real justice requires truth. Anything else is just noise. It's just feelings. All right. I think that's all I got. Yeah. So how long did I go here? Oh, okay. We're in the half hour-ish range. I talked for a half hour straight. Okay. I will spend the rest of the day in mostly silence, probably. Yeah. All right. So this was actually somewhat enjoyable. I mean, it's just basically long form of what I make short videos of, I guess. But yeah. So I would love to hear from you in the comments section. Agree, disagree? Do you have different layers to add to the conversation? I would love to hear that, and I listen, I'd love to hear when you disagree with me too, because I'm all about the learning. I'm all about the learning. And yeah, so I don't know. I guess that's all I got, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me on this rare solo episode. I will see you very soon with Clay sitting to one side or the other of me, and some upcoming interviews. I love doing my interviews. They're a lot of fun for me. It gives me an opportunity to platform people who maybe wouldn't have had the opportunity to do this otherwise. So it's a great treat for me to be able to do that. I will see you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.